this conference last year, as you will see throughout my PowerPoint, because I refer to a lot of the presentations I heard here last year. And I'm in my third year as Dean of the Faculty of Foreign Studies at Kearney University. I think I became Dean because I was foreign and a woman. Right? But luckily, my university actually is really thinking about internationalization. And so I have a faculty of 38, so 37 Japanese and myself, and I'm trying to internationalize our faculty, okay? And what I have found more than anything else is the lack of research that's being conducted in Japan, I would say as a whole, okay? You go to other countries and everybody's talking about publish or perish, and in Japan it seems, oh, I've got a few spare hours, I'll just whip something up for the journal, you know? And you send it to the university journal where it's not even peer reviewed and it gets published, okay? There's a very, very alarming rate of lack of publications once you become a professor. And I think it should be just the opposite. Once you become a professor, you should be a role model to the junior faculty so that they realize there's a goal. When you become a professor, you get to do this really cool research instead of just sit on 9 million committees. But, I mean, that's reality. So, what I'm going to try and do is combine two things here, okay? I was recently asked to do a paper on a research agenda for inbound mobility in the United States. Now this is actually very, very ironic because I have never taught in the United States. And so when I was asked to write this, I said, I am not the right person to write this paper for you. And they said that they were very interested in my opinion as an American looking at America from the outside. And to be frank, I mean, my university doesn't send students to the US anymore. We send them to Australia, we send them to the UK. The US is way too expensive, too bureaucratic when it comes to visas, and I think they really need to do some research on inbound mobility. So that was the take I took on this. And as I wrote this, it was originally published in 1996. There was a research agenda for US universities. And 2 decades later, none of the questions that were put forth in 1996 have been answered. And so in 2013, we had a roundtable discussion at AIEA, which is the Association for International Education Administrators. Okay? It's a branch off from NAFSA. So we had a roundtable discussion in 2013, and we said, what's happened since the original publication and what still needs to be researched? So I'm going to be using this as the model because I think a lot of the things that should be researched in the US should also be researched in Japan. And if you have any graduate students, if you are thinking about what needs to be looked at in Japan, I'm hoping today I can give you some ideas. And this is the URL for the original paper if you want to read that. So, first of all, these 7 issues came up at the roundtable discussion. These are issues that were not resolved in 1996 and still are in urgent need of research. And they are adjustment issues, recruitment strategies and international student decision-making, orientation practices, English language programs and academic supports, social support and campus connections, intercultural learning, and immigration and legal issues. So I'm going to go through each one of these. The first one being adjustment issues in the US. And the research has found in 1994 that what worries international students who go to the US is discrimination, alienation, and fear. Okay, those are their top 3 concerns in 1994. Okay? And so international students feel socially alienated. As a result, they seek out other co-nationals for primary support, and they do not make special efforts to reach out to Americans while they're adjusting to life in the US. Okay? And on the other hand, American students do not feel the need to go out of their way to socialize with foreign students. Now, can't we just take out the word American and put in Japanese and find the same thing here in Japan? I don't see my Japanese students going out there and talking to the international students in their classes that are sitting right next to them. And I don't see the international students wanting to be friends with the Japanese because it's much easier to just hang out with each other. So I think this is something that happens in Japan on a daily basis. So, in the US, on the left, the current research agenda that we put forth is asking asking, what about technology? Now that people have all these real-time abilities to communicate back home, is that helping them adjust to life abroad as an international student? Is it hindering the process? You know, if you could go home and Skype, you know, are you really going to try and find new friends in a foreign country? So that's something that I'm very curious about. Do international students continue to seek out co-nationals on campus for support? Do they retreat to a safe virtual back home environment? And do they exhibit other coping mechanisms or even a combination of their responses? Okay, so this is what we put forth for the new research agenda in the US. So what about Japan? Do we know what worries our international students the most? Okay, do they actively seek out Japanese or revert to co-nationals for support? And what role does technology play in their adjustment to Japan? I would really like to see research on these topics. I think it would really help us in our jobs here in Japan. So going on to the second topic, which is recruitment strategies and international student decision-making. Okay, so thinking of international students merely as a source of revenue for the university denies the social capital they bring not only during their time in the United States, but also long after they return to their respective home countries or move on elsewhere. I mean, the idea is if you go study abroad, you make a network that you can do research with in the future. There should be a social capital gain there for both the university and the student who's studying abroad. So it's hoped that future research will provide universities with effective means to enhance recruitment strategies, to reflect the reality experienced by international students, and to assure the inclusion of these international students as valued alumni. Do we think of international students as alumni? Should. We should. They would be our best recruiting strategy if we would think of them as alumni. So in Japan, I heard an excellent presentation here last year that talked a little bit about this, but my questions here for in Japan are, do we let international students know the reality of life on a Japanese campus prior to their arrival? My university is very guilty of this. Okay, Kyorin University used to be in Hachioji. We were the farthest university from a train station. That was our claim to fame. The bus was 47 minutes, 370 yen, okay? So we now are in Mitaka, which is much more centrally located at a beautiful campus that just opened in April. But our address was Tokyo, Japan. And so our international students came expecting to be on a campus like this, and instead they were way out in the boondocks of Hachioji, and the wild boar actually came down in the winter looking for food. So is this
international students?
Those poor students, right? Do we really let our international students know ahead of time what is the reality of life on campus? I don't think we do. And do we think of them as alumni after they leave? Do we just take their money and say, thank you very much? Okay. So, next topic, orientation practices. In the US, is there faculty development for working with international students? Ooh, okay. Faculty and student perceptions of international students. What do the domestic students think about international students? Are they glad to have international students in their class? Are we thinking about this kind of stuff? The role of the faculty advisor. Wow, okay. Our faculty advisors prepared to work with international students. And post-orientation practices. You speak very little English, you come, you have orientation for 3-4 days all in English. Okay, thank you very much. We never do anything else, okay? That's the US side. What about Japan? Last year, very good presentation here, orientating with purpose, okay? And I was really excited about this presentation because it showed exactly what Musashi University is doing to prepare students for adjusting to life here in Japan. What's happened since last year? I don't know, but I really hope that we continue to think about these things. English language programs and academic support. There's a huge amount of research on English language programs, okay? Huge amount of research on English language programs in the US. Very, very little about other means of academic support, okay? So we concentrate only on English language, but students aren't just studying English. They have a lot of other classes, and we don't look at what happens in those classes. So perhaps most outstanding is the lack of understanding on how to effectively provide support for international students in academic integrity. Okay, so in the US, that's a huge issue that needs to be addressed. What about Japan? Again, last year, excellent presentation on the response of freshman international students to studying English at Asia University. Okay, actually talking to students, finding out what do they get out of that class. Okay, but again, academic integrity, do we look at it? Are our students actually pursuing academic integrity in Japan? I don't know. Social support, campus connections. This is another huge topic that needs to be addressed. When international students go to the US, do they understand the role of student services? They don't utilize that system because they don't understand it, okay? The role of the SIO, this is a new term in the US, Senior International Officers, okay? And that role is in charge of helping the gap between domestic students and international students, making sure the programs are win-win. Is it working? Advising from unofficial channels. International students don't talk to an academic advisor, they talk to their friend. What class should I take? What should I do? Is that really how we want advising to happen in the US? And international students, how do they make connections on campus? Okay? So let's flip it over to Japan. Do we have an SIO position? I mean, it seems like two silos. You've got the faculty, and then you've got the International Student Organization, and boy, those two don't communicate, right? So we don't even have that position. So who advises our international students? Do they get an academic advisor? Are they just supposed to go to the International Student Services office and say, I need some help? Okay. What preparation is given to preparing social support on campus to the international students? Japanese campuses really are lacking in student services. And so a student coming from a foreign culture to a Japanese university is going to see classrooms. And that's it. So, I mean, that's something I think we really need to think about. Intercultural learning, okay? So, what learning outcomes result for domestic students and inbound international students who share the same US campus? I would really, really like to see what impact having international students in your class has on you as a domestic student. And such a discussion must begin with an understanding of different expectations held by both groups of students. Do domestic students see international students as a plus, as a minus, or do they just not see that?
There's research on that.
That's what I'm hoping, yeah.
It's out there.
Great, great. And the AAC and new rubrics, of course, are used extensively in the US. So if we flip this over to the US, these are again presentations I heard last year that I was really impressed with. Strengthening cross-cultural communication, international service learning projects done at Chubu University. And from Tokyo Keisai University, promoting intercultural competence by reducing target culture bias. Okay, so these are things that I listened to last year and thought, wow, Japan is doing some cool stuff. And these are all people that were here at this conference. So, immigration and legal issues, of course, in the US, this is huge, and there has been some studies done on this, but when we think about Japan, part-time job restrictions. Can our international students have part-time jobs? Do they get minimum wage? My Japanese students tell me that students who are international students get half what they do, working the same job. Is that okay? Do we realize what's going on? I don't think we do. And job search advantages, disadvantages, right? Australia has wonderful policies for students who come to Australia to study and to keep them in Australia. And Japan needs the talent that can speak Japanese, and do we do anything? Is that an advantage, disadvantage? What kind of research is being done? Systems thinking, right? Putting it all together and getting ideas about these international students as social capital in Japan. So that was a real quick run through of what is on the table in the US for a research agenda. And it's only through a concentrated research agenda that our campuses can move from a position of operating under an untested set of assumptions about the situation of international students and scholars and the outcomes of our interventions to a position of greater confidence and understanding about the impact of our work. And I'm hoping that What About Japan, today, even more exciting presentations will occur, and we'll be able to put a research agenda together and move forward. Thank you very much.